Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 recipes that I made this past week. There is no theme to this week's recipes, these are just recipes I decided to make, so I do hope you enjoyed them. But let's go ahead and get started and I will show you what I made. First up today we're going to make this green chili chicken. To begin, I am just going to preheat my oven to 375 degrees. Next, in this bowl I have 1 block of room temperature cream cheese. If yours is not soft enough to mix, just put it in a bowl and then add it into the microwave for 20 to 30 seconds and that should soften it up. Next, you'll want to add 1 small can of green chilies. And then for the seasonings, you'll add in a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. After adding all of that into the bowl, go ahead and get that mixed together really well. Next, I'm just using an 8x8 casserole dish and I sprayed it down with a little bit of avocado spray just to make sure that nothing will stick to the bottom. Then I'm adding in 3 thinner chicken breasts. You can also just add 2 larger chicken breasts, that will be fine as well. Once the chicken is in the pan, go ahead and add your cream cheese topping over the top and make sure to spread it around so it's covering the chicken all over. Finally, just add some Monterey Jack cheese over the top. You can add as much as you'd like. Just make sure the top of the cream cheese is covered. I stuck that into my oven for about 35 to 45 minutes until the chicken was reaching at least 165 degrees. Here's what it should look like coming out of the oven. The cheese should be browned over the top and then bubbling around the edges. And then this is what my finished plate looked like. I did make some taco rice to go along with this. Then I added some sour cream to the side so I could dip my chicken and rice in that as well. Overall, this dinner was really good, very satisfying, but also very filling. Now we're gonna make these homemade chicken snack wraps. I used to love getting snack wraps at McDonald's when I was a kid. That was my favorite thing. So today we're gonna be making a homemade version, including some homemade chicken tenders. To get started with this one, just be sure to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Now over to my cutting board. I'm using chicken breast because I always have chicken breasts on hand, but you can also use chicken tenders. This is going to be close to 2 pounds of chicken once I get it all cut up. If you are using chicken breast, go ahead and slice that into smaller strips. And in total, this is going to be close to about 1 pound of chicken. To get the breading ready, you're going to need 3 separate dishes. Into the first one, I'm adding in a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Into the middle bowl, I'm adding in 2 eggs. Be sure to just take a fork and beat those eggs. And then into the last container, you will need 3/4 of a cup of panko breadcrumbs, 3/4 of a cup of regular plain breadcrumbs, and then about 1/3 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Into the same container, we're also going to add in some seasonings. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to give this a really good mix together to get all the breadcrumbs and seasonings mixed well. Now we're ready to start with the chicken, so I'm just taking one of those chicken strips and covering it in the flour. Next, you will just put that into the egg and be sure to shake off any excess egg before adding it over into your breadcrumb and seasoning mixture. I just take my fork and make sure to really pack on those breadcrumbs, and then once it's covered, I will add it over to my baking tray. I stuck these in the oven and these baked for right around 12 to 15 minutes. I just use a thermometer to temp the inside of some of the thicker ones to make sure that they are at least reaching 165 degrees. And then to make these chicken snack wraps, I just take a tortilla, add in some shredded mild cheddar cheese, ranch dressing, 2 or 3 of the chicken strips, and some shredded lettuce, and that is all there is to this. Very, very simple dinner. And if you don't feel like cooking homemade chicken strips, then you can just get the ones in the freezer at the store, bake those in your oven, and there you go. Now for my favorite recipe of the week, we're going to make this Crockpot pork tenderloin. To begin, I am just going to go ahead and remove any extra fat and the silver skin off of my pork tenderloins. As you can see, I already did the front one and I still had to do the back one there. By doing this, I honestly just think it gives it a much better texture. Now in this little bowl, we're going to go ahead and make our rub. So I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of salt, and about a half teaspoon of pepper. Give that a really good mix together, and then we're going to add it over onto our pork tenderloins. When covering these pork tenderloins, make sure to add this rub to the front, back, and both sides of the pork tenderloin. You should not have any of this rub left over. You want to make sure to use it all. Now moving over to the crock pot, we're going to add in a half cup of broth. I'm using some beef broth that I made with some Better Than bouillon. Add in both pork tenderloins in there. Once the pork tenderloins are in there, go ahead and add the lid, and you're going to cook this on a low heat for right around 2 hours, maybe 2.5, just depending on your crock pot. This is a very fast crock pot recipe. You do not need to cook this for hours on end for it to be nice and juicy and tender. This is definitely one of my favorite ways to cook a pork tenderloin. In no way, shape, or form was this dry. It was very juicy. Honestly, just melt in your mouth good. And then on the side, I was so excited this night. I hadn't had a baked potato like this in so long. I just made a baked potato with some cheese, sour cream, salt, pepper, and chives. Thank you all so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed today's recipes and found something that looks good to you. Please don't forget to leave me a flower down in the comments below. I love to see those flowers down there. It lets me know that you watched all the way through. I really hope to see you back here on Wednesday. I will have a new video for you then. Bye guys.